Welcome to
Adoption Air.
And with today we are with Professor Hilbrand Westra.
Buongiorno, amici.
Yes, but the audience is actually people from all over the world, actually. And
Okay.
yeah, I would like to Okay, great. To introduce Hilbrand Westra, who is a lecturer, educator, coach and trainer specialized in the effects of migration and displacement, inter-country adoption and trauma development. In the Netherlands, he is acknowledged as one of the national systemic specialists involving complex family trauma and personal development. A Korean adoptee himself, Hilbrand is involved in the international adoption world since 1989. He was honored of his contribution in the field of adoption by the King of the Netherlands and was awarded with the royal title as Knight in the Order of the Nassau in 2015. So 5 years ago. It's a long time. It seems yesterday.
Oh, really? It's a long time ago.
I think, yeah. So today we would like to talk to you with, I mean, there's so many topics about adoption.
Yeah.
We've chosen together one, which is the body as evidence. Can you explain me, since you have a lot of experience in this field, briefly what it is about and how you use your technique, which since you are an expertise in family constellation with adoptees and for this topic.
Okay. Let's say last decade I found out that it's important for adoptees to get their bodies involved in their development. For many years, I think almost for 50 years in literature, there was always a focus on attachment. I think everybody knows that. What triggered me is that in almost all literature, there was none or almost nothing about the relationship of the body with the adoptee. So if you understand that emotional development is directly linked with your body, that means also that we have to refer to our bodies and the relationship we have as adoptees with our bodies. So that means that I've been focused the last 10 years specifically towards this topic about our relationship and the body, and that we take our body as evidence of our existence. So that is the starting point.
Okay.
Interesting.
Really interesting. Actually, I can tell that I have experienced many sessions of family constellations with Hilbrand, and I can tell that this technique is really efficient for recognize the trauma and the condition of adoptees. So I participated in the Netherlands the first time, and then 3 times in Italy, right?
Yeah, I think so.
At least,
yeah. You were the people who introduced Adoption Constellation Italy, so thank you so much.
Thanks to you for coming.
So can you explain us how it works, the family constellation, especially for adoptees?
Yes, good question. Thank you for introducing this question, Laura. Let me start with first a general picture about constellation itself, and then we go to the adoptee constellation, okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, the general idea about family constellations is that everybody is part of a family constellation, meaning it's partly involved with to be a member of a family. For example, a son has a parent, a father and a mother, and daughter has a father and a mother and is connected to it. So this is a kind of natural order of things, meaning our biological existence refers always to our parents. If you like it or not, that is not the discussion. The thing is, the fact is that we are related to the bodies of our parents. means our physical narratives, our stories which we carry every day, is partly referring to the bodies of our parents. That means that we are connected to them. And this has nothing to do with what we think about it. That is an adult perspective, but we are connected physically first and for all to these bodies of our parents. So that means also that the body understands quite fast and quickly where the balance is gone and where the balance can be restored. So in the 90s, the German person, Bert Helling, introduced a kind of integrated therapy called Family Constellations. And he works with the body, meaning he learned people that the body talks, meaning if we move with our bodies, that is not only a motoric and a physically motion, but this is also a story which comes in the picture of our life. That means that the body itself tells a story, meaning that if we move, the body tells a story. And if we move in an unnatural way, for example, when our emotions are fragmented or we are blocked in our emotions, that means also that in the motoric way of moving, the motion we make in the body, you can see that it is stopped. So the body in that sense gives a lot of information if the body is healthy in the societal environment and also in the psychology of the person. So that is the general perspective and picture of family constellations. Specifically with adoptees is that because of adoptees are disconnected with their origins, is that the body learned to move in a new way or in an unnatural way. And you can see this back if you put people in a space on the position of themselves in an adoptee state or a natural state. That means that you have two positions. The person who was in a natural state and the person who became unnatural because of adoption. That means you have two kind of different motions, the natural motion and the unnatural motion. And that means that if you work with the bodies, you can see that. That means that the body talks to us in a certain way regarding the relationship we have with the outer world. For example, my body responds to you two people because there's a connection to us, but also there's a disconnection to us. That means the body tells in a perspective much more than we tell in a verbal way. And that is why the method of constellation, especially trauma constellations, is so helpful, because you can make up a mindset that the body never lies.
So the body language is something that maybe is overrated and not really understood. Do you mean?
Yeah, I think so. What I found out myself, that I always thought I understood myself, and by using this method and this technique for myself as a human being, I found out that I was dissociated for a long, long time. You can move around the world, but that doesn't mean that you are here. It means that partly you are here, but partly you are somewhere else. And the question is, where is that part where this part is somewhere else? Is that outside, or is it in the country of origin, or is it left somewhere at a station in Milan? We do not always understand how we live and how we work. So we have to try to feel and to sense where happened that we got fragmented. And you can understand when you are abandoned for adoption or relinquished for adoption, that the body gets fragmented because of the stress and the pills to survive, right?
Yeah.
So constellation can help adoptees to reconnect all these two parts.
Yes. At least it learns us about the truth of our connection, about are we really connected with ourselves or not. So we can talk and we can make up nice stories about our adoption, but if you put the body of the adoptee in the space, you see whether or not he or herself is there, or just a part of himself or her.
I see.
Yeah.
So the body in that sense is always the evidence what happened, right? Our bodies tells us if we did integrate our stories and our experiences, or that we try to get dissociated from it.
Okay, so the body is the result of ourself.
The body tells a story of ourselves.
That's the story, exactly.
Because the body is always there, but is not always allowed to tell the real truth.
Exactly. So it means that maybe your mind, our mind, can say something which is different from what body can, right?
Yes.
Because also mind has the power to maybe neglect something or try to find another path.
Yes.
Okay.
Our mindset is quite strong. That's why the Americans found out this concept about mind over body, right? But I think that is a wrong concept, because mind and body should be in balance. There is nothing like mind over body or body over mind. Body and mind are one, because our head is part of our body. It's always communicating with our body. But because of circumstances, because of stress or trauma, our mind can act differently from the body, meaning we can dissociate from what we really need physically and emotionally. That means we can get detached from ourselves, and we can therefore becoming detached from others, which creates unhealthy relationships.
Cool. So the first step should be aware of this connection, and that we have inside this because of the trauma we experienced, and actually try to experience this technique, right? To have more awareness, right? Because I think we need more sometimes awareness, but also to be how can I say, dare to make it, because some adoptees, I'm afraid that they are really afraid of make it, do it this step, right? Because you maybe you want to make it, to do it, but actually you're afraid of what happened after that, right? Because it could be really dangerous, because once that you open the jar, you don't know what's inside or what's coming out.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, it means that if the body tells the truth, that maybe you're not prepared for the truth.
Yeah.
At least your mindset might not be prepared for the truth.
But actually, this technique, you are with a professional who has a lot of experience, right? So you're not alone. This technique, which in your case is you are also an adoptee, so you have really exactly what does it mean, right?
Yes, you have to learn the emotions of the displaced body. That is why migration is so important, because I learned from the literature of migration what the body does. The interesting thing is that almost in no adoption literature, migration is a topic. That's quite strange, right?
Yeah. Yeah, really strange.
Because our bodies are moved without our consent, meaning we are forced migrated. A child who is forced to migrate has consequences of that migration.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because most of the people don't want to admit that adoptees are actually forced migrated, right? They say, no, they are strangers, but actually now they are completely Italians or European or Americans or Dutch, whatever. Actually, forced migrated, it means that it's a particular condition of the human being, not Koreans, not Italians, not Dutch. Can you explain me this point? Because I think we should focus a little bit.
Yeah, good point. I think I have to refer to the literature of contextual therapy from Notch. He diverged 4 important topics. First, we should not look at narratives at first, but we should look at facts. Just like fact-finding, that we have to start with the facts. So my first factual question could be, did you, for example, you both, you two, as a couple, did you sign for your adoption and migration? Did you sign the paper?
Of course not. No.
But how can you prove that you were willingly to migrate?
Yeah, that's another point. Yeah,
that's a fact. So nobody of us, at least I've never met an adoptee who told me that they signed for their migration.
Yeah.
So the fact is that we are migrated without our consent, right? That's a fact.
Yes.
We can discuss about this for a long time, but the fact is that we did not voluntarily sign a paper to be relinquished or abandoned for adoption, right?
Exactly, and we have chosen actually the country, the receiving country, right?
So that means the fact is that we are migrated and we are forcibly migrated. That's point one. Yes. Second thing is that we have to understand this does influence our psychological understanding and our development, right?
Mm-mm.
You have two children yourself, right? No?
Yeah. Right.
Why are you looking at each other?
No, we agree.
Okay, good. So let's say I would blindfold the two girls.
What?
Sorry?
Let's imagine I blindfold the two girls. Blindfold.
Wait.
Yes. And I take this body from this part of the world to another part of the world. Do you really think the body doesn't have any experience?
Oh. Yes.
You can imagine that the two girls get into panic, right?
Yes.
So you can open your hands again. But this is the imagination of a child who does not understand what happens during the displacement.
Yeah.
So point two is the consequence of forced displacement because of migration has direct effect at the understand?
Sorry,
We miss.
we missed the last dentence because the connection didn't work.
Okay, I'm gonna repeat it. The consequence of forced migration has consequences of the psychological development of the child.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's point two, psychological. The third thing is that because of that, the perspective of relationships, how you bond, how you attach to other people, is also changing because of that.
Yes.
Yeah. That means that most probably there is no natural way of being attached to the other person, but because it's all based on a post-traumatic development.
Mm-mm.
So
Yeah.
that means also that influences the being of the person, especially when you grow older as an adult adoptee. That's the third point. The fourth point is that there's a sensitivity about interactions. That means the balance of giving and receiving is a very dangerous area for many adoptees.
Mm.
Meaning, or you give or you receive too less, or you give and receive too much.
Mm-mm.
And many adoptees sense directly when things are out of balance.
Yes.
And because of this emotion, instead of they discussing this with themselves or their family or friends, they keep it for themselves.
Mm.
That means the tension and the stress which comes because of this is imploding, is going inside and implodes instead of going outside and explodes.
Okay.
So it means the whole state of being relinquished and abandoned for adoption means that the whole state of being get in a stress order. And because of that, it gets out of the understanding that there's a natural balance where you feel healthy, calm, and in a natural state of being. And that is why the focus on the physical development and emotional physical development is so important.
Yes. So, what can we tell to adoptive parents, for instance? Because many of them, they think love is enough to fulfill. I mean, not fulfill, but to replace these.
Or to front everything.
Yeah, to face every and to repair the trauma and these derooted disconnections and for that experienced adoptees.
First and for all, I think adoptive parents have to understand that at the point they decide to adopt, and at the point they act to adopt to get a child, get into the position of the executioner. And for many adoptive parents, this is a shocking point of view, because nobody wants to be an executioner, right?
Yes.
But you have to understand, when you decide for a child, to get this child forced to migrate and to get displaced voluntarily because of the adoptive wishes, that means they became an executioner because they decide upon life and death for the child. If you are able as an adoptive parent to handle this position, then there's a possibility then that you can gain a healthy relationship with the adoptee. But if you decide to get away from this reality, that means also the most painful point for the adoptee cannot be shared in this kind of families.
Yeah, but do you think that we can, because there's also discussion, which is the paramount right for of the children?
Yeah, but that's a political point. That is not an existential point.
Yeah,
that means that adopters abuse the existential point to get the things they want to have, but they skip the part that they become executioners at the moment they act upon. You understand that?
Yes.
But you think the problem is just for transracial adoption, or for even a domestic adoption?
The existential issues are the same for domestic adoptees, but the displacement is different.
Okay.
The geographical and the, let's say, the energy field of the displacement is less for domestic adoptees than inter-country adoptees.
Okay. Even if domestic adoptees have a foreigner origin, you think?
That might be an issue. That becomes, because displacement is always referring to the distance of the origin. So they might refer to the same kind of experience as inter-country adoptees.
So do you think that the number of adoptions in the 80s and in the 90s raised up because there was no information about these displacement effects for children? Because actually, if people or agencies and also adoptive parents know about these situations for children, maybe should have been more aware of before adoption, right?
Yeah, with the knowledge we have nowadays, they should have been more aware about that. At the same time, this has also to do with the power differences. If you're at power, you do not care that much about what happens with people who are less in power. So this has also a political and social reference towards what you see as possible and what others see as impossible.
So you are studying adoption in general since for many years. So, and you have traveled in different countries. And have you seen some differences between among different countries? I mean, Korea or Netherlands, Germany,
US. I mean, cultural and the environment could have an influence on a behavior, or it just is not really important.
I think what we have seen last decades is that those inter-country adoptees, let's say transracial adoptees who've been raised in countries where migration is a normal issue, like United States, is for many it became that more easier at a superficial layer, meaning they see other colors and other cultures, but that does not necessarily mean they transmit this as a personal issue. Most of these adoptees, even in the United States, see themselves as white or belonging to the white part. So, for example, in Italy or for Netherlands or Norway or Sweden, we've been brought up primarily in a white society, and we experience these transracial differences from birth or from our adoptive state of being. At the end, you see that it doesn't necessarily mean that much difference, especially when you become an adult. Let's say the 30+ group experience most of the time the same issues.
Okay. And how adult adoptees face these issues that can be, for instance, discriminations or also inner issues once they became aware of this, and how they can face and how they try to find the balance in order not to get ill or feel pain again. What do you think?
There are some existential rules which I also use myself, especially the last 10 years. The first rule is to tell the truth, and that means first of all that you tell the truth to yourself. It means also if you encounter or you're confronted with pain and loss, that you encounter and feel this loss for yourself as first, that you not dissociate yourself from your own experience. The second rule is that you have a need to develop courage to confront the situation as it is, not as you would like to be, but confront the situation as it is. And the third rule.
You mean in this moment?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Many adoptees, they walk away from the situation because they are afraid to confront themselves, because they think they do not have enough courage to do it. The third rule is even in bad times, you're still able to do good. You understand that it is an important rule. Many adoptees, they have this experience that they feel bad and they think this feeling of badness will never come to an end, so why should I do my best to do good?
Yeah.
So the third rule is also important. Even in bad times, you're still able to do good.
Yes. Yes, that's good message.
Yeah. And the fourth rule is that you're not alone in this world, and you're not alone in this experience.
Yes.
So if you need help, reach out to other people who have been before you, who already did this step and already experienced this step. Because many adoptees, they have a kind of idea that what they feel experience is unique and only they have it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Especially
that is not true.
Yeah, especially when you are very young.
Exactly.
You feel exactly a unique person. Only you, nobody can understand you.
And at the first rule of the fourth rule, there's a second part of the fourth rule, and that is try to be open and to listen and to learn for those people already have doing this for a long, long time. Because let's be honest, many adoptees then do not want to listen nor to experience that there is another possibility. Because if there is another possibility, this might also have consequences about their mindset. There will never be a change in my life.
Yeah.
So if there's a possibility to change, that means also that you're confronted with maybe that you have made the bad choices before. And that is also comforting, right? That you have come to the conclusion, I could have done it differently, but I didn't do it because I did not listen.
Yes.
The fifth rule is that you take your body and your emotional awareness very seriously. You have to become aware about yourself and your behavior. And this is the most painful rule, because that means also, if I understand this, I'm also able to change it.
Yes.
And many
Yes.
adoptees, they got stuck in the child's position. They never want to become an adult, because becoming an adult means that you become a perpetrator yourself, because the adult people perpetrated your future.
Yes.
That means once you understand that you have to become an adult, means also that you have to confront yourself with your own choices and come to the conclusion that you also made maybe bad decisions in your life.
Yes.
And the sixth rule is very important. That is, if you want to believe it or not, but the experiences, and especially my personal experience, if you really believe in love, if you really believe in love, that love will carry you around. And that is the hardest rule, because the thing is that we decided at a young age, you cannot trust love.
Okay.
So I think maybe the sixth rule is the most important. Maybe it should be the first rule. You have to learn to entrust love.
Yeah.
But at an adult position, love means also that love is not without pain. Love is not without any problem in your life. And love is also not without disappointment. Love is including all this.
Yes. It's not a fairy tale, happy ending story.
Exactly, exactly. So this is in a short way the things I would like to share.
Yeah, it's you really thank you for contribution. It's really important for adoptees community, and also for I mean for adoption world. That's why we had
Even for adoptee parents, I think. And
Yes.
also for person, husband or wife
relatives
who stay close to an
close to adoptees.
Yeah, especially to them, especially to the partners. Really important.
Because sometimes they cannot understand deeply adoptees. Yeah.
I understand. Yeah, we encountered this kind of issues many times.
So someone said, very interesting, the fifth and the sixth
point.
So, Hilbrand, do you want to add something else?
Yeah, I would like to. I would like to thank you for inviting me. And I also would like to thank you for all the good work you have been doing all these years, and that you allowed me to be part of your life. I'm really thankful for that. And I would like to thank you for the trust you have still in me. Thank you so much.
Thanks to you.
Thank you very much, Hilbrand. And we hope to see you really soon.
Yeah, maybe, I hope so.
Maybe here again in Italy.
I hope so. I would be really great. I'm looking forward to. Yeah.
And so we can say goodbye.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Bye bye, and lovely people. Bye.
Bye. And then we want to to remind you, and the next live will be on Friday the 17th at
4 p.m. 4 o'clock.
4 and 4:15. 4:15 p.m. And with another friend.
Yeah, she's another Korean adoptee from which now who lives in Sweden, and Hannah Johansson, and we will talk about the situation of adoptions in Sweden, which is the situation is not really clear because they try to close the adoptions. So we would like to know more.
So stay tuned and see you soon.
See you next time. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.